There is a cyber worm called Stuxnet, which is believed to be the first known worm designed to target real-world infrastructure such as nuclear power stations, water plants, and industrial units. Dr. Doug Ross is an expert in cyber war, arms control, and disarmament. He is chair of the graduate program in the Department of Political Science at SFU, and it is my pleasure to welcome Professor Doug Ross back to Studio 4 to tell us more.
Thank you very much, Fanny.
So, the dummies course to the cyber worm. What is a cyber worm?
Worms are computer programs, really tightly encapsulated, carefully designed, which can quickly disable a computer system or can lie dormant for months, years. The really interesting thing about the worm that disabled both turbines in the reactor in Iran, the Bushehr reactor, and also just played havoc, apparently, destroying hundreds of centrifuges. They had several thousand centrifuges in a cascade to create highly enriched uranium for presumably bombs,
right.
Although they said it was really just for
of course,
civilian
it's
purposes.
Just for power.
Exactly. Anyway, putting that whole issue aside, major industrial damage was done in Iran. There were also reports last year of big explosions in some refineries. Now, the Siemens control system, the SCADA system, the Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition System, is used all over the world, and not just in Iran. It's used in many other countries. And this dormant worm was put into their system. Somebody with just a memory stick was able to put it into the system. Once it's there, it will try to communicate with other computers. It will try to update itself to the latest version of the worm when it encounters another computer that's also got the worm in it. It's an extraordinary piece of cyber war equipment, if you will, that's been created. But the real danger is, of course, that any other country and anybody else who's a really good hacker and computer programmer can build their own worms. How do you try to stop this? How do you try to stop not just governments from doing it, but criminal organizations, cyber warfare pirates, if you will, who want to hold big companies up for ransom, that kind of thing? The evolution of this kind of capability is just going ahead by leaps and bounds, and it's got a whole lot of people in the security community terrified.
Okay, and are there mad hackers in practically every country doing this? Is the CIA, Mossad, the FBI on it, or what?
No, it would be not Mossad, it would not be the CIA, it would be the National Security Agency.
Okay.
The NSA, which is the chief sort of overseer of internet and information processing capability in the United States. And they and the Pentagon together would have, it is thought, the world's most sophisticated cyber spies and cyber hackers in the world. But the U.S. has far and away the most complex and far-reaching series of interconnected networks, all using the web.
So take me to Israel.
So they're the most vulnerable.
Okay, most vulnerable. Take me to Israel in the Dimona complex. I know it's barbed wire all around it in the Israeli desert. What's going on there?
Well, I'm sure the Israelis are doing their best to keep it absolutely tightly insulated and make sure that nobody who gets into Dimona will have a memory stick that might have been used outside and might have picked up a worm or some other virus and then plug it into their computer inside the system. You have to have complete isolation. The Americans have tried to do that. They've got their own separate SIPRnet, which is supposed to be absolutely secret. But absolutely secret means 500,000 people can use it. And that's how you get things like Julian Assange and his organization, WikiLeaks, getting several terabytes of information being sucked out of the American system. What can suck out can also put in. If you have one person who comes in with a loaded memory stick, who may have been paid a lot of money, whose life is falling apart personally, and they're bribed, and they don't know what they're delivering. You see the picture.
Sure.
Yeah, they're incredibly vulnerable.
Terrifying.
Everybody is vulnerable.
So do you think the Americans got together with the Israelis and to sabotage the Iranian program, the supposedly not making a dirty bomb program in Iran, or not? You know, I mean, there's lots of conspiracy theorists saying, I think this is what went on.
In October and November say they're pretty sure it was the Israelis. And the Israelis have the most to gain by postponing the arrival of the Iranian atomic bomb capability.
Yes.
In 2007, the Israelis also managed to shut down the Syrian air defense system so that they could fly in one, late August and early September night and just take out a big reprocessing facility or nuclear reactor facility which was just under construction. They bombed it and destroyed it. They also shut down the whole early warning system in Syria so that they could have some commando teams landed by helicopter. Syria didn't know they were there. They guided 500-pound bombs onto the target with laser pointing designators. This kind of thing is really, really scary. And so some would say, well,
Sure.
the 07 incident shows that in 2010 it was probably the Israelis. But you never know. There was also computer code. Apparently there were numbers, dates embedded in the code which seemed to have some relevance
Sure.
to the Israelis and Israeli, if you will, motivation for an attack. But we'll put that aside. Richard Clark, a counterterrorism expert during the Clinton administration and the first Bush administration, has talked about the dimensions of vulnerability. And the real issue, yes, Israel has certainly this kind of capability. Iran has this capability. North Korea has the capability. India and Pakistan are at the forefront of trying to develop a cyber war capability. But who's the biggest other than the US? Probably China. And the Chinese have been signaling since late 2008 that they have probably a huge offensive cyber war capability. Why would they do that? Largely, I would argue, because they know they are in a position of massive naval, conventional military, and nuclear inferiority vis-a-vis the United States. And what they're trying to say is, if you come at us or try to intimidate us using these other means, by being coercive about Taiwan or whatever, we have these options.
Cyber war options.
Do you want your air traffic control system shut down? We can attack all your oil refineries. We can attack your electricity grids. We can attack your banking system commercially. We can attack your regulatory system.
Your water plants.
Do you want the U.S. Federal Reserve to suddenly lose all its accounts and all of its memory, have everything wiped out? I mean, that's the kind. This
Sure.
is the scale of operation. And in November, just out of the blue, 15% of the world's internet traffic was suddenly rerouted for 20 minutes, about 15% of all the traffic, through China Telecom.
15%.
15% for about 20 minutes. This is millions upon millions upon millions of messages and traffic. It was all routed through China Telecom, and then it stopped. Right?
Sure.
And this was really shocking. I mean, this is like saying, look what we can do. So far as I know, I mean, the Americans are still scratching their heads over how this was accomplished. It included State Department, U.S. Army, U.S. Marines, U.S. Navy messages, classified messages. It included Microsoft, Dell, major computer companies. All their stuff was going through China for 20 minutes and then stopped.
So, as an expert, you know communication is key in any war.
It's the ability to shut down the modern economy. And that's basically what they're saying is, yeah, you may have us under the gun, as it were, in all these advanced military systems, and you will for the next decade or two, because it's a long time to do catch up. But we have, through asymmetric means, leveled the playing field. You want to damage us, we can really damage you.
So I remember there was a day when we were worried so much about chemical warfare, somebody dropping a bad thing into the water system.
Or biological warfare.
Biological warfare. More than chemical, yes. And now, the question we all have here, probably in Canada, will somebody drop a dirty bomb in Vancouver or Toronto or London or New York? Is that the next step? Or does that have anything to do with what you're talking about?
Dirty bombs are sort of the easy way to cause mass panic hysteria and a lot of economic damage because the cost of cleanup is huge and it would be attractive to terrorists. Don't think governments would do it. No. The reason why I'm much more concerned about adding on this layer of cyber warfare insecurity is it can lead to panic.
And we know what happens when our computer shuts down in this office.
Imagine the Indians and the Pakistanis having a crisis next year over Kashmir again. Again. And suddenly, as they're going to higher and higher levels of alert, and the Pakistanis in particular, because they have a smaller conventional military, start putting their nuclear forces on alert. Suddenly they discover that some of their communication systems are shutting down. In that kind of scenario, where perhaps the Indian Army is getting ready to teach the Pakistanis a lesson through a conventional assault, and eliminating the bases in Pakistan for terrorism in Kashmir and so on and so forth. At that point, the Pakistanis might panic and decide we have to take out that Indian conventional forces with our nuclear weapons before we lose the ability to do so. Now, you can imagine 5 years down the road, if Iran has nuclear weapons and the Israelis and the Iranians are face-to-face, head-to-head, who's going to blink first? And one of them starts seeing their information network shutting down, their command, control, communications, intelligence, all of that is not working. And it's like ink blots, they're disappearing. Is that grounds for saying we can't wait, we have to go first? Now this kind of thing, people who are interested in nuclear disarmament and arms control, in particular Gareth Evans, former Australian foreign minister, last autumn thought enough's enough. We still have over 20,000 nuclear weapons in the world.
20,000.
7,000 are deployed. And of those, 2,000 are on high alert. Can we afford not to have very rapid progress on nuclear arms control and disarmament to try to contain this stuff? Other people have said the problem with trying to do a cyber warfare arms control arrangement is that it's even worse than biological agents, biological weapons. Biological weapons, all you need is a garage-sized lab and you can make something really horrific. And if you've got people who don't mind dying from it but want to distribute it, out it can go. So that's a huge worry, much more so than nuclear weapons, much more so than dirty bombs in terms of major damage to society. But cyber warfare, you don't even need a garage. All you need is a corner of a corner of
Could you call President
Obama
Obama and Prime Minister Harper and get together with them soon?
They know.
I know, they know. Nice to see you again. Come back. It's fascinating. It really is. A long way from the Cold War. Remember, they're just going, someone's going to push the button, we thought, accidentally. Oh my. Thank you.